Everyone hears agents, they're like, I'm gonna have an agent do everything, it's gonna write everything, but they're not controlling it. You have a lot of people who are like basically guest blogging now and just pumping out a lot of AI slop. People are held up in traditional search factors, traffic, backlinks, rankings. All of those things are still important, but they're changing. Do I think Google's will be obtrusive? Of course. They always have been. Hey everyone, Pat Reinhart from Conductor here, and today I'm going to be answering a lot of questions about what's happening in the industry.
So last year we said SEO wasn't dead. How about now?
SEO clearly is not dead. I've been in the industry for over 20 years. This comes up, I don't know, every 2 or 3 years, something happens. I always say this, jokingly, but very seriously, is that I've had many meteors come from my job, right? Like none of them have taken me out, but they've definitely changed the landscape around me. If anything, SEO, AEO, that whole industry, right? Use whatever acronym you want, dealer's choice, is becoming more and more important. Every time one of these major changes happen, and this certainly, like the advent of AI is the most major one that's happened in my career, it is only making our positions and our knowledge and our skill set more important.
True or false? LLMs and AI agents are a new priority content audience I should be creating content for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you really have to take into account is how should you make that content, right? Because I think that's where a lot of people are getting mixed up right now, is that, traditional SEO best practices carry over into the world of AI search. And you have a lot of people that are creating self-serving listicles. You have a lot of people who are like basically guest blogging now and just pumping out a lot of AI slop. You don't want to go into ChatGPT or another LLM and just type in, write me an article about XYZ product or service, and then copy and paste it and put it onto your site. You want to make sure that you are creating content that is good for the user, which has been the case forever. And I think that's even more important now as AI is making it much harder to game the system and is making it much easier, to spot when people are doing things, a little bit in the gray hat world.
If I can't rely on traffic anymore, how do I measure my AEO performance?
Yeah, this is a question I get all the time. So everyone is all up in arms about losing their traffic, right? But we all have to remember that it's about getting the right traffic, not just traffic in general. And what I've seen happen, when all this stuff with AI happened, is that sites are getting more of the right traffic and they're actually doing better from a bottom line standpoint. Folks are not going to goal themselves on traffic anymore, right? It's a directional metric and largely was becoming one over time because, again, I would rather send 10,000 people through your site who are going to buy something than 100,000 people through your site who are going to window shop. That doesn't help your business. It's all about getting the right traffic. And the right way to measure it is you have to really understand the differences between, because a lot of people are held up in traditional search factors, traffic, backlinks, rankings, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things are still important, but they're changing, right? And they're all becoming more and more directional. When you think about AI search, it's a visibility game, but you have to think of what type of visibility. Number one is that it is brand authority, right? It's not link authority. So build your brand, use your expertise, share your wisdom with the world. That is the best way to get LLMs to catch on to you, is when other people are having conversations about you. Real people having real conversations is something that LLMs truly treasure, right? So use your expertise. Number two is also remember that AI is not a traffic play. You are probably never going to get a tremendous amount of traffic from an LLM because a lot of people are getting those answers directly in the chat interface and then coming back to your site or interacting with your brand another way later on, right? And you also have to remember that there's a little bit of social listening here, right? What AI is, and what I've learned over the last couple of years as this all has changed, is that you want to understand what the vibe of your brand is, right? What is the sentiment? Do people have a good opinion of you? Do people have a negative opinion of you? Do people have a neutral opinion of you, right? These are the ways that you should be thinking about, measuring this. Also, from a technical side, for all our technical audience out there, you got to start thinking about really diving into AI bot crawler activity, right? So using your log files, understanding what parts of your site these bots are coming to, and are there any dead zones on your site? Like parts of your site that you really want LLMs to go to, but they're not because maybe there is a technical hiccup that is keeping them from accessing it. Accessibility is extremely important from a technical standpoint.
What will the top answer/search engines be over the next 5 years?
What will they be?
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, the lion in the room is ChatGPT, right? So OpenAI. And that is quickly changing because we are starting to see Gemini, start to really take over a lot of that search share, which makes sense because OpenAI is not a search company and Google is, right? Google also has an endless amount of money, to spend on this. And ultimately, you're gonna start to see those two cross paths and Google will ultimately become number one. But you do have to remember that there's a lot of other great, companies out there. Number one is Claude. Claude may not ever have the volume that Gemini will have or that ChatGPT will have, but will have all the specialists and it will have folks who are in the industry who want to build things because right now, no one is beating Claude from that perspective. Just if you want to build things, it's so good.
True or false? AI referral traffic will be a better indicator of AEO success than brand reputation going forward.
I don't believe that. As I said before, traffic is, again, if you're getting the right traffic, that's great, but I don't think anyone's ever going to get a tremendous amount of traffic from an LLM, at least not at the levels that I think a lot of people are expecting. I think the most important thing is, your brand authority, your brand sentiment, if you're being cited, if you're being mentioned, I think those are better indicators that you're doing a good job rather than I got X amount of traffic. Because again, most people are going to get their top of funnel and middle of funnel answers directly in the chat interface and may not come to your website. They may not interact with your brand until a later time. So I think the visibility metrics, is what's going to determine if you're doing well. I just don't see traffic getting to a level where it's going to trump that.
True or false? Blackhat SEO tactics like spam, cloaking, or low-quality content aren't as risky in AI search as they were in traditional search.
No, it's getting worse. That's completely wrong. So right now we're actually seeing AI accelerate this. The first year, I would say, the LLMs were not as advanced, at least in this area, but you can already see it with all of the sites that are being nerfed right now. Everyone that use self-serving listicles, all of those sites are tanking right now, both in traditional search and in AI search. Because remember, the two are inherently connected to one another, right? Yes, they are two different channels, in my opinion, but ultimately they do converge on a day-to-day basis. And you have to recognize that usually when you rank well in Google from a traditional standpoint, you will show up well in LLMs like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini. I just don't see that being a thing. I just don't agree with that.
True or false? Brands don't need to dread the growth of ads in AI search.
I don't think so. I think ads are going to be, they're going to be pretty healthy, in AI. It was only a matter of time, right? These companies need to make money so that they can continue to fund their projects, right? So it's not surprising that ChatGPT, Gemini, et cetera, they're all going to have ads in it. But do I think Google's will be obtrusive? Of course. They always have been, right? That's something that people are used to from Google, and no one's going to get mad at Google about that because that's their business. ChatGPT, I think, is actually doing a good job, with their advertising, which is typically a banner at the bottom, and it doesn't really get into the chat. I was worried that ads were going to start popping up in the chat, and that doesn't seem to be what's happening. So I don't think people have anything to worry about. I think this is a natural progression of this channel, and it was only a matter of time. Just wait until agentic affiliate marketing starts. That's where we're going to start to see some weird stuff.
True or false? AI is just a tool to help efficiency. It's going to supplement, not replace, content teams or human expertise.
I agree. I think, AI needs human guidance, right? Until it becomes sentient, and then none of this matters, right? Because then it'll just take over. But in all seriousness, I believe that the human in the loop theory is very important to understand that AI is only as powerful as what you give it, and the human needs to be there to guide it. Now, when you think about a content team or a content individual, I don't think that their job is going to go away. I think their job is changing right now. Content writers are going to content editors. People are going to use AI to generate content, and you should. There's nothing wrong with it if you do it right. Again, garbage in, garbage out, right? If you put good stuff into AI, you'll get good stuff out, and if you really understand how to use it. But it still needs a human to fact check it, to go through it, to understand if it's in the right tone and voice for your brand. I don't think that those jobs are going to go away. I do believe that we are in the midst of them changing right now.
what is one AEO trend that you would prioritize above all others in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is really understanding where your data is coming from an AI visibility standpoint. There are a lot of folks out there that are selling snake oil at the moment, talking about rankings and LLMs that does not exist, talking about, monthly search volume in AI, which really doesn't make sense. And again, it's you can debate that, that's fine. But what I really worry about is that folks are just trusting where this data is coming from and not really digging in, understand if it's high fidelity or not. But I think really understanding where your data, like the quality of your data and where it's coming from, I hope the trend of people really digging into that, because I'm seeing that right now. People are digging in, they really want to understand where it's coming from. I hope that continues, because that will only make the output of what these AI systems put out much better.
What's one AEO trend that folks should absolutely ignore in 2020?
Yeah, so a big trend that folks are doing is, number one, creating AI slop, which is just using, like everyone hears agents, they're like, I'm gonna have an agent do everything, it's gonna write everything, but they're not controlling it, right? Like, so one thing I'm hoping is that people really understand how to start using this. I think a lot of people are confused right now. What is the right way to use this tool, this very powerful tool that is at my disposal? And I think as education continues to rise and continues to spread, we'll see much more responsible, content creation, out of folks. And I'm starting to see that now, again, as people get more educated, but it's a slow go, and everyone wants an easy button, right? And unfortunately, there's no easy button in this.
Brands that don't pay attention to X will be doomed to fail in the AI age.
Brands that don't pay attention to X. So one thing I think that people will be doomed, which is a very powerful word, if they don't pay attention to, is how they're using their expertise and how they're getting it out into the world, right? A lot of people think that expertise is putting a byline on an article and then you're done, right? But no, you should take that article and you should create YouTube shorts out of it and have that same person go on to Reddit, if that makes sense for your brand, and start talking about, hey, here's something that we're doing over at XYZ brand. I think a lot of people are not paying attention to all of the different areas that they need to start conversations about their brand in, right? There are people looking for you on TikTok. There are people looking for you on Facebook. There's people looking for you in LLMs. There's people looking for you in search engines. There's people looking for you on sites like Reddit, right? You have to start the conversation everywhere and join the conversation everywhere. It's not just about writing articles for your website. And I think that's where a lot of people are stuck right now, and you just have to think a little bit bigger about this program.